Call to order the meeting of the Budget and Oversight of Public Elections Committee of the San Francisco Elections Commission. Today's date is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2016, and the time is now 6 p.m. I am Commissioner Giordano, so we'll take the roll. Commissioner Paris?
Here.
And we also have a vacancy on the committee today. Commissioner Donaldson stepped down. And we also have with us today Director John Arntz. So let's move on to item number 2, general public comment. Public comment on any issue within BOPEC's general jurisdiction unless otherwise included in an item on this agenda. Any public comment? Seeing none? Let's move on to item number 3, approval of minutes for previous meeting. Discussion and possible action to approve minutes for the December 2nd, 2015 BOPEC meeting. Is there a motion to approve the draft minutes?
I move to approve.
Okay, I second that. Any discussion? Seeing none. Public comment? Seeing none. Let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Paris?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So the motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to item number 4, review of department's proposed budget. Discussion of possible action regarding the proposed budget of the Department of Elections. So, Director Arntz, would you like to just give us an overview of the budget? Maybe any highlights or anything?
Well, the highlights would be that what's unique about this budget would be the $2.3 million that are in the budget for the initial funding of development of an open source voting system. And the $300,000 is slot. I don't think it's defined in the forms, but $300,000 is slotted to the project management of the development of the system, and $2 million is money to fund initial parts of the system. So the rest of the budget, we're not purchasing. The department's not purchasing any large equipment or big ticket items. We don't have any programs at this particular time that would show a large increase in funding from this fiscal year from the past fiscal year. And primarily we're focused on just the amount of load that the process will have to carry for June and November. I mean, it's just really going to be our biggest challenge, is just processing everything and getting it done. You will see, though, even though the 16-17 budget year is a single election, if you look at the numbers, there is a bump in especially the staffing costs for 16, because we'll have to have extra people in several different components of the elections process to get the work completed, such as the vote by mail process, our registration processes, related processes, the voting center in City Hall. Also at the polls, we'll have extra poll workers, we'll have extra staff on the recruiting. So the numbers you see going up on the staffing side really just our response to expected higher turnout for the November 2016 election. So yeah, so the form package that the commission receives is the commission's asked in the past for us to submit everything to the commission that we give to the mayor's office. So that's why you have a lot of forms here that are not applicable to our submission, but so we're just being responsive to the commission. So we're not trying to just throw a bunch of stuff at you. We're following a request from previous times. But it's pretty straightforward. There's really not a lot of change in this compared to previous fiscal years, and there's no, like I said, big programs. And what makes this budget unique at this point would be the money slotted for the development of the open source voting system.
I did have one question regarding the 2-year fixed budget, and I apologize for not being completely up to date. Since elections generally go in 4-year cycles of who's up for election and so on, have there been any changes in this coming 4-year cycle compared to the last one? I do believe that the Board of Supervisors, didn't they change the election of executives as far as the years they're elected, and maybe that was just proposed, but this is only on the top of my head when I read that, would that at all change the budget within the 2-year parameters we have, if this was going forward?
So, yes, I mean, of course it would. If it's a 2-year budget cycle, then there'd be some process change. One question would be, is the door closed on the department from amending or bringing in funding in that second year? And right now, right now, it's a proposed ordinance from the mayor's office to the board, waiting for the board's approval for the 2-year budget cycle. The board's has continued the item for a couple months now. I don't know if the board will pass. I don't know what the status of that the measure is that would authorize the 2-year funding cycle. But I would assume there would be a mechanism to allow for changes in a department's budget if it was necessary. I think what you have in mind about the changing the elections of executives. So the odd year elections are consolidated now in San Francisco. So city attorney, public defender, DA, instead of having a couple in in 2017, next year, all the offices will be running in 2019. So the calendar year 2017, there are no elections, but the fiscal years actually reach across 2 calendar years. And so instead of a budget in 17-18 that would have 2 elections, we'll have a budget with 1 election, which would be the June 2018 primary.
Yeah. Hello.
So I have a few questions. So one question, one of the things you didn't mention is the sort of the stuff around not purchasing a new voting system right away, and also the extension of the contract. And could you maybe just talk a little bit about those 2 things?
So there's nothing in this budget for the purchase of a voting system?
Right.
Right, so.
Yes, so was there, so there's no like gain reflected from not I mean, there's no difference from the previous year's budget because first you're anticipating purchasing the system, then no.
Within these documents, you mean?
Yeah.
No, so the purchase of a voting system is not included in this fiscal year or the next fiscal year. So there's no impact on the budget.
Oh, I meant last year when we were looking at the budget, you know, you were planning on purchasing a voting system in this year, but now that you're not, it's is the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget reflected in documents?
Yeah, there was never any number for
Okay.
a voting system, and even in last year's or previous
Okay.
years. And as far as the extension is concerned, so Dominion Voting Systems did send some initial costs for a possible contract extension. They're included in here. I think the costs went up like $166,000 an election or a year. I can't remember. I think it's probably an election.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first increase since 2008 on Dominion side. So it's it's not nothing that would really raise any eyebrows
Mm-hmm.
as far as cost is concerned. But the contract extension has not been negotiated.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually stepped forward in good faith to provide some numbers so that we could have some funding in our budget, not have to go through a supplemental appropriation. So what you see in here for the extension of the Dominion contract is still tentative. It has not been finalized yet.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the time frame is on that? Is it like in the order of like 6 months or
Oh, yeah.
a few months or okay?
Oh, yeah. Many months.
Okay. And then in terms of the annual maintenance part of that extension, are they are we going to be charged for annual maintenance even in 2017 when there's no election?
Again, we haven't.
Oh, we don't.
Right,
I
so
see.
nothing been finalized. And,
Okay.
and it's not necessarily going to be a continuation of the same services. Maybe some of the services the department wants to take over instead of having the vendor. So.
Okay, I see. And also on the open source number, you mentioned 2.3 million. This is something we've talked about previously, but that is, my understanding is that that's still in flux. Like they're still kind of waiting to hear from the mayor's office as to how that they want that reflected in the budget. Is that correct?
Potentially. So we, based on basically your conversations with the controller's office with Todd Ridstrom, we inputted the $2.3 million in Character 21 professional services. And so that's from the advice that the department received, that's how we put forward the information to the mayor's office, the number. So the mayor's office has not responded back to the department. So if the mayor's office wants to change or wants to recharacterize that 2.3 or different total in another way, we don't know yet. We've had no feedback on that number.
Okay, so those are all my higher level questions. I thought just for the sake of completion, we could maybe just, on page 1 of your overview document, you mentioned that there are seven of the tabs are kind of the ones that matter. And I thought maybe we could just spend like a minute or two on each one. Just point out anything that, maybe what the sheet is about, and then if there's anything notable. Like, so the first one is Form 2B.
So 2B would be, looks like this is candidate statements.
This is the fees and fines page.
It's so small. Yeah, so
basically just,
yeah,
what it's about. Or
so when you see where you see fee is the filing fee for that office, and so for item 1, for instance, if you can you see? Okay, so if you go across the page, you see 500 would be the filing fee for a supervisor or school board seat. Same for the soups, and then the mayor's office is 1% of the salary, and so on. Then the revenue would be candidate statements coming from those offices being on the ballot. So it just breaks it down by the income essentially a department will be receiving based on that fiscal year.
Okay, and this is more or less the same structure as last year.
Yeah.
Okay, and then how about?
And it just changes with based on number of elections we have in the fiscal year. That's what you see fluctuates in our budget usually.
I see. So then the next one is 3A. This is the expenditure report.
Wait,
Feel free to
one
jump in.
question about that. Am I missing something, or is there no filing fee for candidates for the central committees?
Right.
Oh, so there isn't.
Right.
Thank you.
Did you say 3A?
Yeah.
So 3A is really this is the budget. These are the numbers that reflect the expenditures the department had for the current fiscal year, which would be 15-16 original budget. There is no column name other than that. There's no designation like column ABC. And then the base budget would be so right now departments do create 2-year budgets, but the second year is really to inform the mayor's office on budget expenditures for that second year. So departments can still make changes. There's no process that locks us or forecloses us from making changes from that into that second year. So when you see base budget for 16-17, that's from last year's budget. And then the proposed budget is what we have it's our projections for the next fiscal year. And then the changes between 16-17 are the changes between that second year from last year's budget and the proposed budget for this year, and then you see the difference. Then the base budget for 17-18, other than salaries, because salaries automatically get calculated with cost of living increases, but everything else, the numbers are the same for 17-18 as they were for the base budget for 16-17. That's how it's created. And then again, I'll propose then the difference.
I have a few questions on this page. What is premium pay? That was pretty much the only one I really.
It's like if someone is in a position where they provide language service.
Okay. And then also, what would you include under the other materials and supplies, or other current expenses? Because that's 4 million, 2 million. Just what would be included in that catch-all?
Yeah, that's character 21, so that's professional services. Character, if you look in your handout, it should be in there.
Which
The overview document?
Yeah.
I see. Sorry, I was going on this the whole time, and I
Oh, okay.
don't always have it together looking like this, which would have made it much more clear, so I probably should have just taken a picture.
Okay.
I'm trying to wean myself off, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the, the fixed 2-year budget proposal, does that mean, if that were to pass on whatever time frame, does that mean that these 2017-18 figures would be locked in, or would it be only take effect for the,
Yeah.
depends what they decide?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Commissioner Pierce, did you have further questions on this form?
No.
Okay, so the next one that you had said was applicable is 3C. This is the position changes.
Yeah, so we're not asking to increase our budget relative to staffing, but there's a few reclassifications of current positions that we want to create going forward. So the first 3 rows, there's a change of a 1950, which is a assistant purchasing position, into a 1408, which is a junior clerk position. And the reason we're trying to make this change is because 1408 junior clerk job description better fits the responsibilities that we have in mind and which we actually experience in the department, more so than the 1950 classification, which is currently in our budget. So that's why we're asking for that substitution. Mm-hmm. The 9770 is an outreach position, but again, the job description is restrictive to the actual duties that we need that position to fulfill, and that's why we're asking for the 1408 junior clerk position. And then the 1220 reclassification to a 1222. It's a payroll clerk. I can't remember the exact. It's a junior payroll clerk to payroll clerk, I think. And again, the 1222 has a job description which better fits the actual work we need this person to do, more so than a 1220. So we're asking for that change. So we're able to within our existing salary structure, reclassify these positions and then not show an increase and not much of an increase in salary cost going forward if these changes were to occur.
Are these positions currently filled, or are these for open slots?
1222 is the 1408 for 9770 is not, and then the 428 for the 1950 is not yet either. So the first 2 are not, the third one is. And then the fourth one is an existing position. So.
Okay, so then you're not adding or taking away any positions. It's just reclassifying these.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I've answered my own question.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. So the next one is 7A. This is the contract. This is non-ICT.
Oh, so this reflects the any changes in existing contracts that the department carries, and we don't have a lot of contracts. We've got the voting system essentially, and you can just see, well, it's kind of self-explanatory, I think, really.
And what does the ICT refer to?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know ICT stands for.
Okay, so how about the 7B? This is just the same thing, but under this different category?
Yeah, so this would be where we have service contract or service agreements, I guess it'd still be a contract, for the election management system, which is IMES, which DFM is the vendor, and then the Agilis, which is the machine that scans the vote by mail ballots and sorts them and return, with Runbeck as the vendor, with which we have that service agreement. And you can see I think again it's self-explanatory. It shows the changes in the costs for relative to those agreements this year and going forward.
Mm-hmm.
question about the proposed 2017-2018 budget. The proposed amounts in the budget for 2017-2018 are greater than those in 2016-2017, but I thought there weren't going to be any elections in the 2017-2018.
These are yearly costs, so these aren't dependent upon elections. These are annual.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, and then the last one is the Prop J.
Oh, so Prop J, in the past, the department used to assemble the vote by mail packets. Then we moved to we outsourced that work, and then the city requires whenever work is given to outside vendors or moved from city personnel, even in this case it was temp as needed, we had to actually ask for permission to outsource the work. And so the Prop J analysis shows the cost savings by having the vote by mail ballot assembly and mailing outsourced to a vendor compared to doing it in-house with temporary as needed personnel. And so so we have to do this every year for the budget, and every year the Controller's Office reviews the figures, and then the Controller has to actually issue an agreement with our Prop J findings. So.
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, we had talked about this last year, and you were thinking that maybe you don't even need to do this anymore. Is that right? You're thinking it wasn't.
Well,
fair,
yeah, well, I mean, I guess we do.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Commissioner Paris, is there anything else you'd like to ask about when we open up the public comment?
No, it seems like you got most of my questions when I looked over this. Unfortunately, because I got this online and not through paper, I didn't write any notes, so if there's anything else I've probably forgotten because I'm getting older and I don't remember.
Okay.
It happens.
Well, you did an excellent job putting this together.
Yes.
I'm very happy, excited to see the funding for the open source too. I know it's something that the commission has been working on for a long time, and I also know that that's still kind of in flux a little bit, from my understanding. Let's open it up to public comments.
Okay. I'll go first. My name is David Carey. I just wanted to say to commend the director and the commission, and particularly Commissioner Jordanic for the work in getting the initial funding for the open source project in the budget, so that you can work on that. It's a really important thing to be doing, and something that's one of the unusual things the department will be involved with in the next several years. And so I just encourage you to continue to refine and improve the plans and the budgets for that project, so hopefully it can get started as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ferry.
And my name is Alec Batch, and I share that same enthusiasm and support for the proposal. I appreciate all the work that has gone into this, and I really want to thank you. And we want you to stay with you as this moves forward and do what we can to help assure passage, and hope that this is not too major of an increase in the department's budget, and if it is, we hope that this is a very good budget year for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Besh.
Is Brent Turner with Cavo. I just wanted to, well, obviously sharing that as well, and say thanks to John Ernst and to Chris and to Paris and everybody, Dominic, that's Commissioner Paris, that's been involved in this. A couple notes that just looking through this for the first time tonight, I just wanted to make a couple notes for the record, that when we're talking about the election and I'm sure this is all apparent to everybody, but just we're talking about the election management system first of all, and I think eventually there should be some thought that that would become an open source system. Also, the $386,000 for license fees and maintenance may be chopped down tremendously. Obviously, I don't think there will be that license fee issue. And then the $497,000 that's mentioned here that's in the current budget for election services, my understanding is that Premier Election Services estimates approximately $300,000 for a year worth of service. So that will be chopped down by a couple $100,000 that should be reflected moving forward. It actually turns out to be a pretty good cost savings. The $300,000 for project manager, I think, is an interesting figure and appropriate, leaving $2 million for the rest of the project. I'd be interested to see exactly what is expected for that $2 million. I'm assuming that will be in an RFP, and what exactly would be expected. My understanding is also, and I don't know if it's reflected here, the current cost of certification of this system, which is the ultimate goal, runs somewhere around $300,000. Now that the state has moved out of the federal certification process, we don't have that extra expense. So that $300,000, what I'm looking at, should be noted somewhere. I'm not seeing it, maybe it's just not here timely yet. I'm thinking that there should be a mention, and maybe it's somewhere else, of approximately $50,000 for Cabo membership, which I think the county should join. Cabo is willing to help every step of the way on these bullet points. Talking about forming a citizen advisory body, I think that's prudent, but we also can glean a lot from what's happened with repetition in other jurisdictions. Specifically, Los Angeles County has expended a tremendous amount of money with citizen participation in advisory boards. So I think we're going to be able to glean a lot of information from Los Angeles. As far as the developing the voting system requirements, high-level design and architecture, I think over the past 10 years, 15 years, that has largely been accomplished, although it needs to be fine-tuned, certainly. But the front end is going to be working for the disabilities components already in New Hampshire for this coming primary, and I know Brian Fox is hard at work putting the back end together. So there should be a complete system in the works and close to completion, and certainly that $2 million would allow them to ready that system very quickly. So I think some of these issues here are already at near completion, and the $2 million that is allocated will allow the completion of a very fine system with certification. And as far as the outreach to other collaborative partner jurisdictions or nonprofits, I think we, as part of Cabo's obligations with membership, we would take on, if the department so chose, reaching out and being that arm once the other counties that are waiting for this decision to come forward, once they see San Francisco County move forward, I think San Francisco, Alameda, Contra Costa, Marin are prime targets, and then we have 15 other jurisdictions that are members of Cabo that I think will come forward with monies ranging from maybe 50 or 100,000 on up to participate. So a lot of these bullet points, I think, can be really dovetailed with participation in Cabo and with the involvement of the people that have been pioneering this work for such a long time. So I just wanted to share that. I appreciate the efforts of the department and just want Mr. Arntz to know we're on duty to help in any way allowed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. And just to clarify, that numbers, my understanding is that number is just for the first fiscal year. So,
right.
You know, things like certification costs, I think, would come later.
What are the membership fees for Cabo?
Well, they range. We've given counties freebies, and we've given them $300. When we're talking about really getting started on something like this, we're thinking our strategic membership of $50,000 is an appropriate number, as the obligations will be increased and our outreach campaign will be intensified if we're operating at the direction of the department.
But also, just to clarify for the public, the budget that's Director Arntz is proposing, it's just a proposal to the mayor's office, correct? And then it's up to the mayor as to whether or not these funds are actually going to be in the proposed budget.
Right. First, the mayor reviews the submission, then it gets entered into the city's budget system. Then from there, the mayor and the controller and the board look at it. And then as we get into June, the board's budget analyst will review the budget, and then they'll put, just like the mayor can add and take away from his budget, then the board can add and take away from the budget as well. So this is not final.
So, okay.
Out of curiosity, to what degree do either the board or the mayor get into the budget? Do they take generally broad strokes, or am I going to know that in projected personnel costs, 3 chauffeurs are too much and it's going to be down to 2? Do we generally know?
Then chauffeurs, we have chauffeurs in here?
I just picked from Prop J sample. It was the first thing I saw on my screen.
Yeah, okay, that's so for the record, the department's got no chauffeurs in its budget. It's a sample document for Prop J. It can be that specific, where it's the decrease in funding is based on a position. It could be something as broad as an initiative the city's carrying out. It can be a mandate for the mayor's office of a 10% reduction in budget. It could be any number of reasons, any number of causes that show decreases in our budget. There's no set formula. And in this fiscal year, the funding for the city is better than other fiscal years, so there's less tension right now amongst the departments about getting funded going forward. And the board, of course, has its own funding goals that it wants to hit for departments and nonprofits and things like that. So, yeah, it just all comes together and comes out. And hopefully, you got enough to run. I mean, I've been in budget cycles where I've been asked to cut $2 million from the budget. And I've had mid-year requirements to cut more than $1 million from the budget. You had to respond to that. Then you're doing layoff plans. So there's never a set anything with the budget. So I know you have a lot of questions on funding the open source system. There's a lot that can happen along the way. There's no one set way of getting this done. So.
Yeah. So, and I think in terms of making sure what we want to have happen, it helps for members of the public to advocate.
Oh, it's critical. Yeah, I mean, fill the rooms. Go to the offices. That's really the best way to get something continued in the budget, is having public support for it.
And that's also something I'm doing as a member of the commission too. So, well, great. So as BOPEC, Commissioner Paris, I'm not sure, you weren't here last year, but what we usually do is we have a motion to forward to the commission, recommendation, to approve the budget.
Well, then I would move to approve the budget and forward it to the full commission.
So I'll second that. So, any discussion on the motion?
I have asked all my questions, unless I think something else, which I can't.
Okay, let's take a roll call. Commissioner Paris?
Aye.
And I will also vote yes. So the motion passes unanimously. Okay, so that concludes the meeting. The time is now 6:35 p.m. Have a wonderful evening. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.